What's up, everyone? Criddle here, and I finally finished my Sharen build. This is the highest damage I've been able to get in a single shot, legit, other than the Kyle bug that we had last week. But I finally finished it up, and I wanted to share that with you guys. So as y'all saw in the beginning of this intro, it does upwards of 30 million damage. Now that was to a level 1 enemy. If you were to actually shoot it against a level 100 enemy here, it does about 13 million damage in one shot. That includes the fire damage as well. So you can see that right there. And then against bosses, you saw it on the Devourer there. It did about 7 million damage, plus it does the dot as well. So it does upwards of 8 million damage with one shot on the boss if you get the proc as well. And I wanted to share that with you guys so you can kind of copy the build if you want to, or maybe you find a better way to tweak it a little bit more. So I am using the Piercing Light, and I'm using that over the Afterglow Sword. And the reason I'm doing that is because this weapon can actually get higher damage values than the Afterglow Sword. The Afterglow Sword, however, can crit more often because it does have a higher base crit rate. So you can get the crit rate a little bit higher and the damage on the crits a little bit higher. However, the damage on this does have a higher weak point damage. So it kind of balances out the damage a little bit. But let's go ahead and jump into the mods and take a look at them. So this is my mod list here. You can see everything that I have. The main things that you're looking at, your standard firearm crit rates and crit damage, and then you're going to be adding in your firearm attack. But the reason that this is so good, and you can look right here, this DPS value is actually incorrect. It's should be much higher than that. I'm not sure what the bug is, but there's apparently a bug going that causes that to display incorrectly. But this right here increases your firearm attack by 200%. This is what my goal was, is to get as high as firearm attack as possible. So we have pretty much everything in here is all about firearm attack, and I'm getting it as much as possible. I think I could get 1% more if I wanted to out of this. If I went with firearm attack, we could go with a different one here. I don't remember which one it was. Slow art, maybe. Yeah, I think it's slow art. I think that actually gets up, instead of the 61%, I think it's actually 62% if you max it out, but this is the one I went with. So you could potentially get a little bit more damage out of this. And the recoil doesn't really matter. Also, the fire rate doesn't really matter. I would say the fire rate matters a little bit more than the recoil, just so you can get those shots off quick enough to be able to beat something like the Devourer. So anyway, this is this right here, but I do want to go over the fire enhancement and then also the superheated gun barrel. I threw these in here rather than try to go for more crit damage or things, or weak point damage or anything like that. I don't know if I can even add any more weak point damage or crit damage to this at this point. Well, at this point I definitely can't because these are all full, but I don't know if I could have replace these with more weak point damage or crit damage. But what this does is it takes 30% of your firearm attack, which I'm trying to max out the firearm attack. This weapon in particular has the highest firearm attack in the game, starting at a base of 404 at level 1, and then it obviously goes up from there when you get it up to level 100. And then we're down here getting an additional 90% fire attack, which doesn't give you 90% fire attack to the base. It adds another 90% on this. So basically, it's essentially making this almost 60% fire attack damage on top of all of your other base attack damage. So when you add everything up, this will hit for, on a level 100 enemy, approximately 10.4 million damage. And then the fire attack on top of that is about 300,000 or 400,000. I don't remember exactly. You can look back in the video. And then it ticks if you get the fire proc on it, which this does have a 33% chance. Right here, 33.3% chance for the attribute to trigger. So 33% of the time you are going to get that fire proc, and it does last for 10 seconds or 10 ticks, and each one does 90% of the fire damage that you do. So if this thing does 100,000 fire damage, then it's going to do 90,000 10 times. So you can see how that adds up. That's why this does so much damage, because it does upwards of 300,000 fire damage, and then is doing 38,000 10 times, which is another 2.3 million damage after the shot. So you potentially can get up to 13 million damage in a single shot with this one weapon on a level 100 base enemy. On Colossus and those kind of things, obviously it does scale down because they have a lot more defense. But you could see that you get 8 million or so. You could actually double tap Devourer with this. I got it to a point where I used 3 bullets and was able to get it, but I just can't get those back-to-back crits because this doesn't have the best crit rate. I got mine up to 53%. You might want to get this a little bit higher if there's a way to do that, but then you're going to lose damage somewhere else. So anyway, that is the weapon, but let's take a look at Sharen as well, because this is actually how you get even more of that damage. So we have the Overcharge Edge. I think everybody knows about this one. This gives you an additional 100% more damage once you use this because of this ability right here. So it gives you an additional 150% damage of outgoing damage plus an additional 50% damage, up to 50% more damage proportional to the shield lost. So it depends on how much shield you lose. If you lose, like, I think it's based on if you have 100 shield, let's say, and you use 50 shield, that gives you that 50% damage. But if you have 1,000 shield, it takes away 500. But let's say you have a maximum of 1,000 shield and you only currently have 500, then you use it, it's going to take away 250, and I think that only gives you about 25% more damage. So you want to make sure your shield is full when you use it, but you want to have as little shield as possible. So my character right now only has a shield of 491, so there's no bonuses on any of these items here for shield. We're going to go over some of these in a second because there's actually a way we can make this a little bit better. So that, anyway, that's where you get an extra double damage from, another 200% damage. And then here we do have a firearm attack mod that you can put on your Descendant, but it does lower your skill power. Of course, for Sharon, we don't really care about skill power on this particular build because her skill power only affects her 1 and 4 abilities. But right now, we're just using the number 2 ability, going invis, reloading our gun, and getting that first shot reload. And that's what's giving us those huge boosts, plus an extra 15% attack right there. The last thing I do want to test out, and I haven't done it yet, but I want to throw this in here, and it's a little bit more difficult to test out, though, is you can get this right here. I could add this in once I catalyze Sharon a little bit more. I'll be able to add in Walk a Tightrope, and this is when your HP is 50% or lower, you add an additional skill power modifier and fire attack damage. This is going to be another 30% once it's fully leveled up to the fire attack damage. So that essentially is going to go from the 10.4 million up to probably 13 million or so. It's going to add 30% hopefully on top of that, depending on how all the math works. So that I'm going to definitely add to eventually. You could, if you wanted to, throw in something like this one right here. When rolling, the firearm attack goes up by 8% for 5 seconds at a 15% chance. This would be more consistent if you wanted to do that, because you could roll a few times, get that proc, and then use your weapon. But the firearm attack, I think on this one doesn't cap out as high as this one. This gets up to 30%. I think this one only gets up to like 20%. I don't remember what this one gets up to, but it only also lasts for 5 seconds, whereas this is whenever your HP is lower. The reason I'm going to use this one, though, specifically, is because that goes along with these Annihilation set. So if you look here at the Annihilation set, it says the 4-piece set is firearm attack increase proportional to the ratio of max HP to lost, or to HP lost, up to 26%. So the more HP you have lost, the more damage you're going to do. So you could potentially add another 26% plus the 30% from that below 50% HP. You could potentially add up to another 56% more damage on top of this. Of course, the way that it adds it up, it might not be exactly 56%, but you can see that it could potentially go even higher than the 30 million damage possibility. It could go up to maybe 40 million or higher possibly. So I'm going to look into all of that once I get a good set. I want to get a set that has the maximum amount of health on here before I really test it out. And then I'm going to take it into a boss fight, and I'm just going to take some damage, get down to maybe 50% health or a little bit less. But if we have enough health, which right now I have 22,000, almost 23,000 health. So if we can get that down, get into a boss fight, get hit for approximately 12,000 health, we still have 10,000 to play with, and we're now doing 56% more damage on top of what we're already doing. This could potentially one-shot Devourer once I get it done, and I'll probably make another video if I can make that all happen, but that might be a little bit more difficult to do. Anyway, hopefully you like this video. If you do, please like, subscribe, follow, all that kind of stuff. I do stream over on Twitch daily, so come on over, say hello, and ask me about some gameplay or play some games with me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.